And in the course of comparison, we have shown our predilection to chalk out the path, predilection means inclination, or the path of devotion, which will best serve us in the progress of our eternal life. The next thing we are to determine is the object of devotion. As rational men, we should have the course, we have shown the course of our taste to lie in three directions. The elevationists, the liberationists, and the devotees. Three directions. Elevation, most everybody's elevationists. They want to get more and more and become successful. Then the liberationists and Mayavadis. As rational men, if we have confidence in a devotee, we are naturally supposed to inquire, where does this destination terminate? Our guide in devotion shows different apparels at different times to help us form our particular phase of love. When the object of love is fixed in the all-embracing figure of the loving, we naturally show our inattention to worldly phenomena that were guiding us in our human existence. The spontaneous attachment towards ephemeral things requires a change in the guidance of a devotee. So we, in order to follow our guide, should regulate to adhere to our heartfelt injunctions, the direction as well as known the final point of our present mission. In the school of devotion, we are taught to direct all our energy towards the infinite fountainhead of everything, who has attracted by his love all detachable elements which consider themselves to be a different integer instead of a part of the all-loving center. So detachable elements, that's us, the living at the jivas. In one sense, everything is Krishna, but the jiva is like a detachable. It's like this child. She's cleaves to the mother and father, but she's also detachable. She can go and do nonsense and you can't control her. She's detachable. So that's the word he's using to describe one of the characteristics of the jiva. Otherwise, we're all one. It's true, the Mayavadi said there's nothing outside of Krishna, but we're that detachable part. Where was I? In the school of devotion, we are taught to direct all our energy. Now, we naturally ask our preceptor, who has had experience of loving Him, capital H, loving God, with all his heart, the question of the name, size, including the color, his distinctive qualities, his paraphernalia, and his exploits. So the one who has seen these things, he can describe to us. The devotional absolutist, in answer to our question, delineates the different names, different colors and sizes, different features qualitating him for our comprehension. His different locations, the whereabouts of his satellites, and his different achievements in different atmospheres. These varieties should not puzzle us in targeting the absolute monopoly of the all-pervading spirit, namely the position of Godhead. Language, circumstance, and other similar barricades may stand against our prosecution of the present studies, but with the aid and kind help of the generous director, means the spiritual master, we can tide over these petty difficulties which evil spirits might put in the form of counsels against making our actual progress towards the spiritual kingdom. Our present empiric atmosphere has compelled us to take recourse to analogical attempts, but this analogy may either help us or stand against our progress. God is one and without a second, and this idea need not bar our access to innumerable simultaneous transcendental figures in Him. So this is what people get confused. Well, how can He be Krishna and Rama? As our object of investigation was not accepted as a finite sensuous object, we should refrain from showing a misdirected activity with our present acquisitional intelligence. So now we're in acquisitional intelligence. We want to collect. We want to acquire money and following and prestige. So So we have to, as our object of investigation was not accepted as a finite, sensuous object, so this is not something we can collect. We can't collect Krishna like that. If we do not disturb our attention in thoughts detrimental to our cause, we are sure to strengthen our position in admitting ourselves to the undisputed region of the transcendence. So if we do not disturb our attention in thoughts detrimental to our cause, so our cause is to approach God, but we can disturb ourselves by thoughts that are detrimental. Here we are to adopt the process of descending, the descending order of the Absolute Truth, and not to make an irregular move towards diverse finite things. The ascending process is always going to go to finite things because of the very nature. We're ascending. We want to make the material world a better place. And generally, everybody's working under that conception. You know, the good people, they try to make their world better. But they're only going to come to the finite, because how can they, with their mental, material conception, how can they pierce through to come to the transcendental side? That can only come from descending. That's the point being made. Here we have to adopt the process of descending order of the Absolute Truth, and not to make an irregular move towards diverse finite things. If we are relieved by proper instructions not to meddle with sensuous objects, we have taken the longest journey to approach the Absolute Truth in person. Like I was hearing on the radio this morning, one, I forget his name now, he used to be in the government, a minister. Anyway, he was saying, he wrote a book called The Last Best Hope. You know, and he's targeting America. The last best hope is the young people, especially the people who he dedicated to the service people who fight for the country and so on. Because people think, you know, America is going down, so this is the last best hope. But it's hopeless. There's no hope. What's their hope? There's hope against hope. According to karma, the country's going to go up or down. You can't, there's nothing you can do to it. The only hope is to get out of the dukkhalayam shashvatam. The whole thing is suffering. So what's the hope? You're going to die. Every American is going to die. So it's hope against hope. Prabhupada used to ridicule this hope. That we can adjust this, adjust that, and then everything will come out nicely. It won't come out nicely. We're going to grow up and die. The child will also have to grow old and die. So what is the hope? The only hope is on the spiritual side. Otherwise, you know, we can say, oh, we had a good life, but then who knows what's going to be in his next life? Like Prabhupada talked about Nero. He became the dog in Sweden, the second dog. The man had 2 dogs, and Nero became the second dog. Because of, you know. Otherwise, you would think, oh, he was the prime minister, intelligent, handsome man. He had everything. But what is it? It's hopeless. Materially, it's hopeless. Our dire experience means unfortunate experience, or realistic experience, which brings us to the point of death, of this dusty atmosphere, leads us to submit ourselves, to offer reverence to the powerful great and to persons of whom we beg for something. With this idea, we make a division of things we come across in a scale of gradations. When we point out on one side of a rod, we ignore the specifications of the other extremity. The intermediate gap is measured by graduated meter. The 2 extreme points are named, and their direction, size, color, attributes, neighboring values, and efficacies are also defined. In the present case, the object of worship and veneration bar us at the first sight to consider the object in a different mood. In other words, we have to see everything differently. We can't measure the way we've been measuring. Oh, this is good, this is bad, along the scale, this is not so bad. And so it requires a whole different outlook. That's the point he's making. We have to get beyond this measuring phase. Sometimes Maya is called measuring. We're measuring everything. But we can't measure Krishna. He's at Hoksaja. He's beyond our measurement. In the infinite existence of Godhead, it is natural to accept Him as the great object of veneration, But this adoration, when macroscopically enlarged, is metamorphosed into a transcendental predicament which may be called the ocean of love. In other words, love, when disfigured and contaminated by unhealthy dirts, is worded in 100 different styles. Love of dog, love of country, love. Love devoid of confidence gives the result of less loving activity from the proper. Want of love is found in different shapes in the worldly ties, which is but a misnomer of the transcendental word love. When the integer is scrutinized, diverse fractional parts or distinctive impressions are offered by the same integral standard. Now, I didn't understand that sentence at all.
It's amazing.
I could go over it again and maybe you understand some of it. Let's just skip it. The different fractions are incorporated in the integer by ties which go by the name of tie of love. The idea of absolute monism means my body, monism, absolute monism, without everything is one, is confined in an idealistic, and that idealist cannot keep up his dogma when a stern realist examines his monistic thought. In other words, it's not realistic that everything is one. It's not realistic. Like Prabhupada grabbed the guy's shirt and he said, "Is this, are you wearing a cotton ball?" Prabhupada was annoyed. He was pulling his shirt. "Are you wearing a cotton ball? This is also cotton, but it's different. It's not a cotton ball." So the monistic thought is not realistic. You can't wear a cotton ball. You have to wear a shirt. It's nothing but cotton, but it's different than cotton. So we're nothing but God, we're different from God. The Mayavadi, that everything is one, monistic thought. It's idealistic. Idealistic monism shows the result of an analytical standard. I don't understand exactly. But the point is that it's idealistic. Well, we want to be realistic. We are speaking of ties just now, which are called the tying potency of the all-loving towards his loved millions. If we are not intelligent to investigate the all-loving and his perpetual faculty, we will not be at a loss to approach him properly. We will be at a loss, excuse me. So we have to understand God carefully, and otherwise we won't be able to approach him. His transcendental existence, his love, and his loved, and his love, all have got the indispensable existence of love, and this is to be singled out from varieties of phenomena and of transcendental manifestations. So again, there's variety. The reality is there's variety in spiritual life. The mundane phenomena have got distinctive qualities by which we can give a direction of eternal manifestations that lies beyond the material world. So he's saying, in the material world there's variety, so this giving us a hint that in the spiritual world there's also variety. The rapturous condition of the pessimistic view is remedied by his opposite school, by the tie which goes by the name of love. What does that mean? The rapturous condition of the pessimistic view. So the pessimistic view is that, like the nihilist, they say everything is absurd. Everything comes to nothing. And so they want to become one or merge or become zero like the Buddhists. And they think this is some rapturous condition. But really there is such a thing as love. And love means two. Whenever we miss this tie, the tie of love, our existent cooperation fails to trace out our connection with the infinite absolute truth. We cannot call this to have a chaotic fountainhead. I give up. So you get a little idea of how he was thinking. And writing in English, which wasn't his mother tongue. Walking encyclopedia, people would The Mayavadis would cross the street to get away from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. He would catch them and defeat them. So maybe we should stand and have a little
This is
kirtan.
Can we do offering now?
We can't chant while he's offering. Bhaja Bhakatavam Saraswati. We used to always sing that. When the offering was going on, we used to have kirtan. But anyway, we can talk more. You want to make some comment?
I was just wondering, was his general preaching, even in India, obviously he was preaching Bengali or whatever.
But he when he wrote in English, he was preaching to the British.
Yeah, so he was.
Yeah, he was defeating their own intellectualism.
Yeah.
They were coming as big intellectuals, teaching the stupid Indians what the real thing was. So he came back and defeated them in their own language. And some of them did accept. You can read some conversations with the governor and this Christian missionary that he sat down and talked to them. They became bewildered by this.
Yeah, I get a picture when I listen of them like stroking their beard and holding the pipe and having to read each sentence 5 times.
Or when he talked to them personally too.
Yeah.
He said, "What you have said is very thoughtful. I'll have to think about it."
It's interesting to see too how that approach is there, and then you see Srila Prabhupada's approach
According to who he
according
was
to
preaching
time and
to.
circumstance. Because if he would have presented that.
No, I'm sure when he was, maybe Sripadi can tell us if some of his essays in Bengali, he may have been in the vernacular. He may have been preaching to the local Bengalis in a not such a flowery language. Have you ever read anything that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wrote in Bengali?
Yeah, so many.
So is the language very erudite, or is it more?
Yeah, that's why the Prabhupada written and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada written is different. Prabhupada actually wanted to give like an easier way to give the philosophy. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati way exactly like a.
So even in Bengali, he wrote very.
More hard, not like easily you can accept it. Very like more grammatical.
What about Bhaktivinoda Thakur? He wrote a lot in Bengali.
Yeah. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is easier than Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati.
So he kept to the same. That's interesting.
Because he was the mood of defeat those local Brahminis and Mayavadis.
And as we were just mentioning, and the Goswamis.
Yeah.
They were criticizing him. Well, why didn't you put Vipin Binhari in the Guru Parampara player? He doesn't mention Vipin Binhari Goswami, who was the Diksha Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he said, I'm only putting the Paramahansas. He didn't, So they didn't like. He was fighting the Goswamis for sure, because they were claiming monopoly. That unless you get the knowledge from us, we're coming in line. Nichananda Vamsa or something.
Yeah.
They were taken by birth. So he was fighting that. No, not by birth.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Diksha Guru's name is Bipin Bihari, the Maharaj mentioned now. One time Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta was like, Bimal Prasad that time was young. They went to meet Bipin Bihari. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur went, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur is his disciple, so he paid obeisances like prostrating obeisances, Dandavat Pranam. And Bipin Bihari just took his foot and put on head of the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, like Lord Nityananda did to Raghunath Das Thakur, no? Raghunath Das Goswami. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was young, he didn't like that program. So he didn't say anything there. So when Bhaktivinoda Thakur left the room, he was chastised Bipin Bihari. Like he said, how come you do that? You know who is my father? So he was like so angry. Then he chastised. Then later Bipin Bihari told Bhaktivinoda Thakur, like, your son told me like this. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur also know the real truth, like who is he and who is Bhaktisiddhanta, the real. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying this thing to one of his friends. even my son is so strong, he can chastise my guru. Because Bhakti Bihari was like he's a guru, but he's a Kanishta guru, so that's why he didn't put him in the parampara.
So when, anybody know when, do you know when he took initiation from him? Bhaktivinoda? Yeah, was it before he began reading so much Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya
Well,
Charitamrita?
Bhaktivinoda Thakur was reading from beginning, you can say, no?
But there's certain time where he...
Yeah, he took before,
where he
long time.
kind of rediscovered Srimad Bhagavatam and read some...
But he was associating with Jagannath Das Babaji more.
Later, yeah.
Yeah, so who is like Paramahansa.
So that was probably early on that he took initiation from this.
Okay. More discussion?
Today I was reading one nice thing that when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was, most of him was in Anyway, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was born, the Ambalik cord was wrapped around his neck like a Brahman thread.
Yeah, we could talk to other pastimes, right?
Very revolutionary guru also. Like he used to ask us the priest of the temple to put a printing press in front beside the deity and do worship of the printing press, arti of the printing press. Brihad Mridam, he used to call it.
I heard he was very strict about only eating prasadam. Like when his father and him were looking for the yoga pit, for the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, so they were traveling and sometimes they would go to a different temple and they'd be offered prasadam, but he would never take prasadam until he went back, looked at the pujari, looked at the deity, looked at see if they were smoking beedis or something. He wouldn't. He'd just fast. He'd only eat if he thought it was accepted by Krishna.
The famous mangoes.
Oh yeah.
Also, it seems he used to personally roll BDs for the temple construction workers, so that every time they used to come down and spend time drinking tea and BDs, so that you carry on your work, I'll roll BDs for you.
He was pushing the preaching, and he was very pleased if anybody sold even a small journal, distribute. And that's where Prabhupada got the inspiration, right? He told him, print books. He said like that, I would sell all these marble temples just so that we could have distribute books.
The other caste Goswamis and all, they wanted to kill him, murder.
Oh yeah.
So they bribed a police, local police general, 25,000 rupees something. So that police general came to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj and told him that they are trying to bribe me. I take bribes from everybody, but not to kill a sadhu. So I came to warn you that they are going to kill you.
They're trying to kill you. Yeah, there was some pastime too with Keshava Maharaj, that when there was some rumor or fact that there was someone to kill him, and so Keshava Maharaj adopted his dress, and he went incognito. He was ready to risk, and to be killed in place of his guru.
He used to travel also with bodyguards with him. He used to have a personal bodyguard.
Wow.
So once they were traveling on a footbridge, so Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj slipped, and his bodyguard saved him, lifted him up. So he said, you saved your spiritual master's life. So this is your last life.
Actually, the Bhakti Vikas is coming out with a whole book. When is that book coming?
Sometime this year.
A whole book about so many
Lion
pastimes.
More than 1,000 pages.
Jeez, that would be exciting. Once I asked Prabhupada, I was giving him a massage, I said, Srila Prabhupada, tell me a story about your spiritual master. So generally when Prabhupada, like Shruti Kirti said, the servant of the spiritual master is not supposed to initiate conversation. But I didn't know that. I was just Because generally, you know, what are you going to bother him when he's resting? When he was Stikh Prasad, it was kind of like a resting move. But this is 69, I didn't, you know, I was really. So I said, please tell me a story about your spiritual master. So he just kind of raised his head and he said, what is there to say? He was a Vaikuntha man. You like that one?
Yeah, isn't it that they, at some point they went on parikram to the different temples in Vrindavan, was it Vrindavan? And they closed a lot of the temples, they wouldn't let them. They wouldn't let Bhaktisiddhanta come.
And then he came to Radhakund. And so a lot of Babajis came, oh, the head of the Gaudiya Mata, let's see what he's going to speak. But he spoke on the Upanishad, Isha Upanishad. I said, what is this? Radhakund, he's speaking on Upanishad? So they went away. So that was his, you know, he didn't know. He was against the Sahaja, that was the other thing. He was always fighting the Sahajas, the Goswamis, caste Goswamis.
So introduce, Sri Pujari should wear a watch strictly in the temple.
Punctuality. And motor cars?
Yeah, he was revolutionary to ride in a motor car.
That was innovation.
One time, so somebody pointed out like there's some mistake on Bhaktivinoda Thakur's work, like on the maybe some grammatical mistake or some Bhaktisiddhanta so angry and said, there is no mistake on my father's work.
You've seen that that video they have out, Universal Teachers? A lot of footage of Bhaktisiddhanta.
I did see it, yeah. He sat so straight, right? And like this, he was moving his hand.
They were saying that was fake, that part.
Was what?
It was manipulated. That actually wasn't, that part wasn't real video.
How do I know which is real?
There's a whole presentation on that, how they manipulated that one part. Because, did you see? Yeah, so many evidences of it. So. But there's a lot of good footage. Anyway.
And you get some insight when you read this book, Our Friend, was it? By Mula Prakriti?
Oh yeah. Most dear friend of all or something?
Friend of all. A friend to all? Or?
Friend to all or something, yeah.
I think so.
So,
yeah, that's what it is. A friend
there you
to all.
see that he was coming to Prabhupada quite a lot before Prabhupada came to the West. In a dream, and talking to him, and encouraging him. Rupa Goswami also, but there's some past them. Like there's one devotee was coming to see Prabhupada, and then he came one morning, and Prabhupada was crying. He said, "What's the problem?" Or something like that. And Prabhupada said, "My Guru Maharaj has come." And he told me, he was speaking to Prabhupada, encouraging him and guiding him. And Prabhupada said like that. He wrote that in a letter to me. I was alone in Hong Kong at one point, and then Brahmananda came, Prabhupada's secretary. And so he sent a telegram to Prabhupada. Trivikrama Swami is alone and send help immediately. So after about 10 days I got a letter from Srila Prabhupada that said, Brahmananda Maharaj has said that you're alone, but what is this alone? Vaishnava is never alone. It's like when I came to your country. Apparently I was alone, but I was always feeling the presence of my spiritual master. So in the same way, you can go on. So that was very evident. Prabhupada was always, surrendered to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and because of that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was always there, guiding him. So that same thing is open to us. We're really serious about following Srila Prabhupada, he'll guide us. Like I was telling Mahatma the other night, how so many people are being directed by Prabhupada in dreams and communication of some kind, even now. Did I tell you a story? The one boy in Belarussia, where I asked how many people had a dream, and he had a dream. So what was your dream? He said, well, I was a disciple of Harikesh, and then Harikesh left. And I thought, how can I be Krishna conscious? He was so much more Krishna conscious to me, and he gave up Krishna consciousness. To me, it seems hopeless. I have no hope that I can possibly be Krishna conscious. So he was in that mood of discouragement, and in that mood he took rest. And he never met Prabhupada, but in a dream Prabhupada came to him and he told him, why do you say hopeless? I am here. And he woke up out of a dream and he felt encouraged. And in that class there were 200 people. I asked them, how many of you are dreaming about Prabhupada? 100 people raised their hand. 50% of the people. Never met Prabhupada, but somehow Prabhupada came to him in a dream, in some way or another. So that's my point. If we're really sincere, Prabhupada will come. He'll come and help us. If we have a problem, a dilemma like that. He's Dinabandhu. If we are really sincerely in anxiety because of spiritual consideration, then we'll get help. That's the promise. But if we take shelter of our own resources, then we're on our own resources. So we have to be like Draupadi. She was trying to take shelter of different resources. My husbands will help me, the elders will help me, I'll help myself. Then finally, Krishna! Then Krishna. Okay. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.